Hi everyone, I'm Marlene and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be looking at LangGraph Reflection, which is a pre-built graph from LangGraph that allows us to use reflection style architectures. So what this is basically it's an architecture style that allows you to build AI agents that are self-reflective. So say, for example, you're building an AI agent that produces some sort of an output, and then you want that output, that agent, to be able to self-evaluate and figure out whether or not its output is good enough. And if it's not good enough, it should take some sort of an action. So maybe rerun the task and try again. Or if the output is good enough, it should be returned directly to the user. So this is what we're going to be experimenting with. We will also be throwing in there some stuff using LangChain to access the OpenAI Responses API, which is the new Responses API that allows us to access tools like web search and file search directly in the API. And we can use this and access this directly in LangChain. So if you're interested in any of this, please keep watching. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is go to the GitHub repository for LangGraph Reflection. You can just look for that on GitHub. It's under the LangChain AI repository as well. There is some information here about the architecture. So it's saying that this reflection agent uses two sub-agents. So there's a main agent that's attempting to solve the user's task. And then there's a critique agent which checks the main agent's work and offers any critiques. And then we also have a picture, which is great if you know in LangGraph. One of the benefits of using LangGraph is that you can better visualize what's going on with your agents, which is super cool. So there's two examples here. There's an LLM as a judge example, and then there's also a code validation example as well. So in this specific tutorial today, we're going to use the LLM as a judge example to get started. We can just click on this link here and it has all of the code that we need. I would like just to give this, just to make it a little bit easier for understanding, I will probably break this up in a Jupyter notebook, but let's copy all of the code for the moment. And let's go ahead and paste that into a Jupyter notebook. So I want to create this, call this LangGraph .ipnb. And then I am just going to paste all of the code at first into one cell. These are the requirements that we need to install to get started. So I'm just going to run that. What I also want to do is I want to break up this code so it's not all in one cell. I am always nervous when I'm doing this because I feel like I will delete stuff and then have not copied it properly. So we're taking, this is the first bit of the code here is the main assistant code. So that will do the main task. And then the second code is going to be our code for defining the judge. And then this section here is actually going to create the reflection graph overall. So we can break that up, I would say, into 3 cells. And I will edit this later because obviously we can just do that now because we are not using a Python file to run this. We're just using Jupyter notebooks. So that should also just work. For this example, they just have a call model function. We're going to change this. We're imagining we're working for a fictional company called Contoso, and it's an outdoor e-commerce website. So it's for camping gear and things like that. That's what they're selling on their e-commerce site. So we are imagining that we're part of their marketing team, and we want to be able to produce with AI really high quality content that is also trendy, and that also includes the products from our company's e-commerce site. So there's several things that we want to do to be able to do that. One of the things we want to do is we want to be able to search online in real time for what are the trending topics or the trending things that we can include in our blog post to make it, as viral as possible. So we want to be able to look online for that information. The second thing we want to do is we want to include the products in the article as well. And so we want to be able to search our files to be able to look for those products and include them. And in the reflection part that I'm going to do here is that we'll have the LLM that's acting as a judge that will actually be our editor to be able to see if we need to edit anything in the article. So to start out, we are going to change this call model to use the OpenAI Responses API. And for understanding what that is, we can just look at this documentation from LangChain. So it says that here, what we know is that a couple of, I want to say like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, OpenAI released their Responses API. And this Responses API is kind of geared to people who are building agentic applications. And one of the things that I find to be really cool about this specific API is that it has built-in tools. I actually think that's probably, to me, that's the most exciting part about this specific Responses API. Something I will note is that I think this is good. The Responses API is great for if you're prototyping things. I think it's helpful for that. But it is a little bit restrictive because, for example, with file search, you have to upload your files to the OpenAI vector store. And I'm not sure, if I have data, I'm not sure I want to be uploading it to the OpenAI vector store if I really want to do that. And then the second thing as well is that it also is a little bit restrictive on what sort of files you can upload. So for example, you can't at the moment upload CSV files. I had my data in a CSV file and I wanted to use that, but you can't do that. And so for the moment, I feel that this is great for prototyping, but if you're wanting to move, to use your own data and things like that and probably scale up, you want to probably switch to something else or connect to other tools that, of course, LangGraph and LangChain offer. So let's get started first with the web search part. And I'm just going to copy this code here. And then let's go back to our, we're going to go back to our cell here. And then I'm going to paste this here. I'm not going to delete that other line because instead of directly using chat OpenAI, I want to show you, I think this is very cool because I didn't know about it. I just saw it this week. I think it's this week or last week that we have this init chat model option that we can use. And this just allows us, it gives us a really cool way to be able to connect to different models. So I can just say, if I want to connect to OpenAI, I can say OpenAI GPT-4o. And that will immediately infer that I want to use the chat model from OpenAI, and it will do that. So let's copy this. And then let's paste this here. I do think you probably need to have, LangChain OpenAI installed or whichever specific one you want to be able to do this, but I think it makes it really easy to switch between different models. So for example, if we wanted to switch to Azure AI, we could do that, which is great. Azure AI is my personal favorite package at the moment. But it just allows a really convenient way to do this. So I just wanted to show that as well, which is why I've removed the other option. And this just instantiates a chat model LLM like you would with the normal one. And so in this example, what we can see is that we're starting by we're saying that we want to use the web search preview tool. We are binding that tool here to our LLM. And then instead of, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this LLM with tools and add that here. And then let's just delete this, and that should work for that. Now this will work, but I think that, actually we can test this out and just see what it looks like. So I'm just going to move this as well to a separate, its own cell, just so we can see what this would look like when we're calling it. So we can say something like call model, and what can we say? We can say yeah, I don't know. We want to pass in the state though. What do we need to do? Okay, we need to pass in the state. So I would say something like messages messages there. And then I think this is how this would work. And then the message I want to say is, let me say, what's a trending topic today? Okay, and then let's run that. I feel like that should work. It says call model is not defined. Okay, call model is not defined because I haven't run this cell. This is why it's not defined. And then let's try it again. Let's see if that will work for us, just to see what this looks like. And I'll also note, I'm not sure how many of you have specifically, how much of, oh, there we go. And it's saying as of March 2022, several topics are trending. Technology and innovation, AI, of course, AI is the thing that's trending. All right, I'm not going to read too much into that, but yes, that is how this would work directly for the web search tool, which is really nice because it's not a lot of code that you need to get started here. So this is the web search stuff set up. The next thing we need to do, like I mentioned before, is we also need to set up our vector store. And to be able to do that, LangChain also has some information here. It says to be able to trigger a search, pass a file search tool to the model as you would any other tool. You'll need to populate an OpenAI managed vector store and include the vector ID. So we do have this information here. We just probably need to just grab this section here. And I want to have this code at the top so that we are finding our vector ID first. So let's delete that and then let's create another. We can actually probably put this in the same cell here. And then let's put this down here. And we would probably, what we would want to do is we'd want to grab this this here. We would probably want to make it a list of tools. So what we can do is LangChain accepts a list of tools, and the tools have to be kind of in this dictionary format. So I think this should be okay if we have this like that. I think copilot is just, and then we would pass in tool like that. Okay, so I think that should work, where we would have our web search and then we have file search here. So we need to be able to get our OpenAI vector store IDs and also upload our files to OpenAI. And to do that, let's go to the OpenAI page. The file search page is where I went to. And the first thing is we want to grab this code. They have different code here. I'm going to grab this code for uploading my file and I will paste that here. They also have them in different cells. So I'm going to copy this. Let's paste this here. That would be for creating the vector store. Okay, so from there, let's go ahead. The first thing we want to do is replace this with our own file. Let me just show you what is in this hiking products PDF. Let's open that. And it's opened on a different, there we go. So here in the hiking product PDF, we have different products, of course, from another project that I was working on. So we have tents, we have backpacks, we have sleeping bags, different camping style things, and some information about those products, including the name. So we are going to do some RAG type file searching to be able to include the names of the specific products we want in our article. So to upload it, let's change this. We can just change this to hiking products. Okay, and that's going to be a PDF. Let's just run that. I think just running this should just work, but let's see. Okay, that worked. And then let's just run this. I think that creates the vector store for us. If we run this, why is result not, where was result? Oh, this has to be resolved. That's actually a typo. That's a mistake in the documentation. I need to go. The developer advocate in me is coming out and saying, I need to go and fix the typo in the OpenAI documentation, because that's a typo that, results should be there. But I won't do that at the moment. There's no error. In progress means I think that's being uploaded to the vector store as expected. And then let's go ahead and do that. And what this gives us, I'm not sure. Again, okay, it's just showing us it's completed now, it's uploaded. So this is the main thing that we want. We want this vector store ID so that we can replace this here. So let's paste that in here. And then let's run this cell. And that's just going to, I actually don't think we need this here. And that's going to save that for us. And that will pass that vector ID into this section here. And this is going to just, again, define our main assistant model that we can use. And this should be able to carry out the task that we want. So the next thing we want to do is to be able to define the judge section or the reflection section. And in this section, we can create a judge. And the first thing here is that we create a class called finish. And that's just going to be, again, a typed dictionary that can be finish and bool. And I'm assuming that you can edit this if you wanted to actually pass this in as a tool. I'm not sure why this is in the example file, because when I was looking at it, I don't see a place where actually passing this in. And I am not sure, but I think with tools, you would probably create a tool node at some point, and then you're probably going to create a tool node, or you're going to pass this into the evaluator at some point somewhere. I think for the moment I'm just going to comment this out just because I'm not entirely sure, and I think it will still work because with OpenEvals it does give you back either true or false based off of if something passes a certain criteria. But I'm assuming this is just for example purposes, but I might put in a PR. I might put in a PR to change this, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure. So here in this section, we also have a section that says to define and a detailed critique prompt that can be able to evaluate the output. So here we can see that the output is going to be evaluated by these 5 categories, whether it's accurate, complete, clear, helpful, and whether it's safe. And then we're saying do not set pass to true, instead provide constructive if there are any issues with the response. So we can see that makes sense, and then it would output the response for us there. And so here we are importing this create LLM as a judge from OpenEvals from that package. We're passing through that critique prompt. We're setting OpenAI O3 Mini as the model we are going to use. Here we can see we're passing our message or the article to the evaluator in this line here, which makes sense. And then and then right here at the bottom, we're actually defining our graph, which is interesting. So we're creating 2 separate graphs, and then our pre-built graph from LangGraph is going to combine those 2 graphs into one, which is very cool and super helpful because it would be kind of confusing to try and combine those on our own. So very cool that we are able to do that in one line of code. So I think we understand what's going on here. Let's press the play button, and that should be good. So this should just work if we pass things and have things go ahead. So we're going to change this prompt, and let's say, can you write me an article about camping that includes, let's say, tents and sleeping bags from my files, make sure to name the product you are including. And then let's also say in the article, include the latest camping trends and some, I don't know, popular camping sites in San Francisco. I'm going to San Francisco for Interrupt, so let's put that in there. And then let's say make sure to cite your sources. Okay, I think that should be a good place to start. I'm always nervous when I run things for the first time because, you know, there's always things, but I think this should work. Let's go ahead and run the graph and see what happens. We might get an error the first time. That's sometimes what can happen. For me, I think I want to spend a little bit more time as well working with different tools with it. Okay, our response was approved by the judge. That's great. Okay, we aren't seeing the response printed out the screen. We want that response to be printed. So let's say print. Let's just grab the content. Actually, I'm going to grab this here. So let's say state, and then let's say text like that. And let's run this. And then let's run this cell. And then let's see what is the output there. I will mention that there is a great video from LangChain about this, about the reflection architecture. Great, that worked. That worked. Let's see, let's get that text editor going. Do we see some sources cited? Yes, we do. We see some sources cited here. Amazing. So the camping industry witnessed several notable trends. We're seeing that. We can see our products included from our file, which is good. Okay, okay. And our response was approved by the judge. So this looks so good. This is really nice. Okay, I'm not going to save it. But this is really nice. And I think that you should be able to easily take something like this and turn it into an application that a marketing team can use. Okay, that is where we are going to end today's tutorial. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions or thoughts, please let me know in the comments. I will leave links to everything that I mentioned in the description. And if you would like to see any other tutorials or things about LangGraph that you would like me to talk about next time, please let me know as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye.